You gotta cut that one now.
Just cut.
How do you determine when it's best to use that little V cut chisel that you got in your hand now as opposed to that little single channel cut?
I can't use that straight cutter on a real tight curve. Once I get this curve flattened out a little bit, I can use that.
So you're not going down very deep at all on that first cut. You're just making a little outline.
Just a scratch. What was it John Lennon said? Doc, it's only a scratch.
Tell you what, cutting that backward toward yourself is a little more awkward than cutting forward. That takes us a lot of practice right there.
Well, it's easier to do this little bit
Then
backwards than turn it around. I had one of my subscribers text me one day and said, "Your hands are steadier than my dentist."
Hopefully they stay that way.
It'd be nice. Don't look for it though.
Tell you what, I love the colors in this right here. These that oranges up there, they're beautiful.
Yep. The neat thing about this piece of wood, and I told this on early when I first started this video, I had this blank sitting over there and I didn't know where it come from because I know that I didn't cut it. It was an official stock blank, made as a stock blank, and there was a date. It had been varnished or sealed with some sort of linseed oil or something, and there was a date written on it and a price. This stock blank came from 1962, I think, and the gun itself was made in '63. See that? It jumped out. That's why I do this before I finish it.
So how many lines per inch do you go on a Winchester like this?
I'll do 20 or 22. Probably 20. This is a medium.
Does it
super fine checkering?
Does every gun model or gun maker tend to have a pattern, or is it just on a custom stock? I guess you can kind of make it how you like depending on what the person's needs are and what the gun is, right?
I can. But yeah, like you get a Winchester 70 for several years. It's like the bumper on a car. You could tell they didn't change that much for several years. A bumper or grill looked similar, and then they'd change it every 5 or 10 years. Well, stock patterns are similar, where they'll invent something that's theirs, like a Marlin. A Marlin 336 had the same similar stock pattern for 20 years. I don't know. And you can, there's no patent on those things. You can copy them. If somebody wants one that's a reproduction, you've got to copy what Marlin did.
But you don't have to like pay any copyright
No.
or even
Well, I don't think so.
cite
I
anything.
don't think so.
It's really hard to get this angle right to where you can see the pencil a lot. There it is. It's like working in a submarine. It's just tight quarters.
Usually I've got this thing on my cradle and I can spin it.
Right.
But I don't have that right now because I don't want to change that cradle setup.
Now to do the finished checkering, the final checkering, aren't you going to have to put it in the cradle?
Yeah, but by then I'll be done with that 1148.
So you're checkering two at the same time right now.
I'll be finishing two at the same time. I'll be finishing this one and that Remington, and probably another one I've got to do. If I can do, the more I can do at a time, the better my finish lasts.
The better the finish lasts.
Yeah, the more you keep the finish can open, it dries
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Extremely. It oxidizes very, very easily. Have more. I never use a quart before it's
Goes bad.
Yeah.
What's the name of the finish that you use? I'm sure you've
Permalin.
put that in the video before.
Yep.
That's a sharp little tool right there.
It's actually not. It needs attention.
And let me restate that. That needs to be a very sharp little tool right there.
Yeah, I need to, but I have a hard time sharpening that particular tool. There's two things that I have a hard time sharpening. That and pinking shears. I just
Can
can't
imagine.
I can't get whatever it takes to make them sharp. Create a little dust. Let that dust drop into that hole.
So you have two holes here in the stock, in the wood, and you're just going to make some dust.
You just take a drop, a half a drop.
Put it right in there. And it doesn't cause any miscoloring or dark spots in the final finish?
No. It once it goes in,
Just a little
and
super glue.
bonds with that dust. You wipe off the excess, and then you sand it.
This
With
quickly?
more dust.
Oh, yeah.
That dust bonds with that liquid. It's stuck to that liquid.
So now instead of being able to blow that dust out, that dust will harden.
That's a big hole, so you got to do it again. Leave the dust in there and put a little liquid in there with it.
Looks like a snot bubble.
Yeah. Let's see if it tastes like the same.
Can you say snot bubble on a YouTube video?
We'll find out. If you don't do this to itty bitty holes like that, your finish goes in there and it takes 1,000 coats of finish to fill up that little hole. That finish is thinner than this super glue.
And you're just putting in 3 little coats of that
And
epoxy, and it don't take but a minute to do it.
it's not epoxy.
I mean, not epoxy, but super glue. As opposed to having to go back and do a whole bunch of different coats of finish.
Yeah, if you put finish on this, you'll have the whole gun slick and there'll still be a hole there. I mean, you can fill it up eventually, but this eliminates hours. And that just turns into a little bird's eye knot. And it looks like that.
It's interesting because that actually looks like
It looks like what they call a tight knot.
that same knot that you showed me a bit ago that you called snake eyes. Those two little
I had to
knots
fill those
together.
up.
Oh,
I filled them up. But yeah, the middle is dark, and that's just the way a knot looks.
okay.
Knots look like that, and little bitty ones are pretty. I mean, I think they are. I wish I'd quit leaking on my finger.
Bleeding?
I got a. It was a.
Should I be filming this?
Okay. It was a blood blister. Scott smashed my finger the other day against that splitter.
You cannot put this audio on the YouTube because everybody's hearing you call their name. So this is fun.
They don't know who Scott is. There's a lot of Scotts in the world.
Scott, if you're watching this, we're not talking about you.
No.
It was another Scott.
Another Scott that we were at his house with a log splitter putting up his firewood.
You talk about
Working
you
with
talk about these little knots right here being kind of pretty. It's kind of like that great aunt I used to have had that mole on her nose. Kind of, it was a beauty mark.